What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the newest episode of Nerd Vibes. All right, we are here this week to talk about just some new stuff I've been watching. Solo leveling is over, so we had to watch some new anime because solo leveling was a banger. We've been talking about that here on the pod, but last episode was a couple weeks ago, so solo leveling season 1 is over. So what we're gonna do today is in this first little segment, I'm going to talk about some of the new stuff that I'm watching in place of solo leveling. And then later on in the episode, we are going to talk about X-Men 97 and how crazy that has been so far. And then we're going to talk about this other anime that I just finished watching. While I was watching solo leveling, I was also watching this anime in the background. I watched it on my Twitch stream. Sometimes, but then I got really wrapped up into it, so I started watching it off of stream and in my free time. So we're going to talk about that, and then to round out the episode, we are going to talk about the movie that we watched that's next up in the Tomorrowverse for DC, and that's going to be Justice Society WWII. And then that's going to finish up our episode. So strap in, get loose. Hope you guys enjoy. All right, now, since solo leveling is over, what have I been watching? Because I know we talked a ton about solo leveling on this podcast and how I felt about it. It's one of the best animes that I've watched in a long time, mostly because I've read the manhwa before. And so, again, I'm going to reiterate, when watching solo leveling, it gives me a different feeling watching something that I've read come to life. So solo leveling right now holds a special place in my heart just because of that reason. But season 1's over. It was a great season. Season 2 is already confirmed. It's going to come out later this year, so we're excited for that. But it's time to move on. We're taking a break from solo leveling, and we're going to get back together soon. But right now we're on a break, and so during that break, I'm seeing other people. And one of those other people I'm seeing, this anime called Kaiju Number 8. Okay, I've heard about it. It had a lot of hype going into this season. I've heard about it in terms of the hype for it. I haven't heard about it in terms of the manga or anything like that. As far as I know, I only seen one episode so far. But kaijus, which are giant monsters, let's say if you're into the Godzilla movies, the monsters that Godzilla fights, those are kaiju. So and King Kong, the monsters that they fight are kaiju. So in this anime, I'm just gonna give you a quick rundown. Like I said, I only watched one episode, but this is what I'm watching now. Episode 1, I'm not gonna summarize episode 1. Okay, whatever. The overall premise of this show is kaiju attack. There's certain squads of humans that go out and they eliminate the kaiju. Okay, our main character wants to be part of one of these elite squads that eliminate kaiju, but he is essentially a garbage man for after the kaiju fights happen. So he's on the cleanup crew that has to clean up the monster after the elite squad has taken the monster out. So that's his job starting out, and then apparently he gets taken by a kaiju or something like that, and then taken over by a kaiju, so he becomes a kaiju human hybrid, and the elite squad of kaiju killers have to deal with that, basically, because I'm assuming this is going to be something that's unprecedented, where a human has been taken over by a kaiju but still has his human sensibilities and all those kinds of things. So we'll see. I think it's a great concept. I like the idea of kind of merging the kaiju into a human form and then having to deal with the repercussions of what that means, for the kaiju killing squad, who their task is to eliminate kaiju. So do you eliminate this kaiju even though he has human traits, personality, and all these kinds of things? So that's what I'm excited to see. Plus, the fights look pretty cool, and you can never go wrong with giant monsters. Godzilla, King Kong proved that. You just can't go wrong with them. So I'm really into it. Like I said, it's only one episode in. I'm in on the concept. I can't really give it a rating yet, but I'm in. I'm in on it. Next show we have is something that I've really been excited for. It is called Go Go Loser Ranger, and it is I want to say it's satirical look at the Power Rangers or Super Sentai, if you're more familiar with that. But um, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, grew up watching it in the '90s. You had Rita, Zed, all of them, the Putties, versus our Power Rangers. Tommy, the Green Ranger, White Ranger, Red, Yellow, Blue. All those. The Blue Ranger was my favorite, but everybody knows the Black Ranger had the most swag. Anyway, this anime is called Go Go Loser Ranger, and it's loosely based to me off of the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Okay, but this story flips that idea on its head, where the Power Rangers are going against the evil army and trying to stop them from taking over Earth. The difference in this one is that the evil army comes to take over Earth, and the Dragon Keepers, as they're called in this anime, take out the higher ups for this invasion squad. So that just leaves all the foot soldiers there, and not really much to do because they're not that strong without their executives, as they call them. So what happens is the Dragon Keepers basically enslave them and make them fight every Sunday in front of a live audience and have it be televised, so that the Dragon Keepers can keep up the appearance that they're protecting Earth, thus gaining fame, acclaim, honor, whatever they're looking for in this world. And the Dusters, as they're called, which are the foot soldiers for that, one of them decides, enough of this. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of losing all the time, every week, scheduled, every Sunday, we lose. I'm tired of it. So he decides to use his powers of transformation, transforms into like a normal human, so that he can infiltrate the Dragon Keepers ranks and take them out that way. For that show, I am 2 episodes in. I have a review on YouTube of the first 2 episodes, so go check that out on my main channel, Armed Dark Mamba. That should be coming out. It should be out by the time you guys watch this episode. So go check that out. Like and comment, subscribe on that one. But overall, I'm in on the concept. I think it's really cool to take a beloved franchise in Super Sentai / Power Rangers and kind of flip the concept on its head, where you live in this world where, what if those heroes aren't actually heroes at all? And they're actually very oppressive and tyrannical, and they have all these flaws that the public doesn't know about, that they're just keeping this big secret. So I thought it was great. There are the first 2 episodes, a little preview into the review. The first 2 episodes are a little slow, but again, I like the concept. I'm gonna keep watching it because of the concept alone, and we're gonna keep going. So we're gonna keep hearing about this on the pod. But yeah, Go Go Loser Ranger, Kaiju number 8 are the 2 anime, because it takes 2 anime. It takes 2 anime to replace Solo Leveling in my heart right now. And then once some other stuff starts coming up, we're gonna start covering that. I think Demon Slayer has a season coming up. My Hero Academia has a season coming up. So we're gonna be heavy into watching those as well. But right now, Go Go Loser Ranger, Kaiju number 8 are what I'm watching instead of Solo Leveling. And I mean, we're obviously still watching One Piece and a bunch of other anime, but those are the 2 that just started that I picked up right as Solo Leveling ended. So go check those anime out. I have my review episodes 1 and 2 of Go Go Loser Ranger on YouTube right now. Armed Dark Mamba. Go check it out. Like, comment, subscribe. But we're going to take a break, and then after this, we're going to talk about X-Men 97 and the crazy stuff that has been going on. Spoilers ahead on that one, because I can't talk about it without spoiling it. It's just insane. Okay, just insane. See you guys on the other side. All right, what's going on, guys? We're back. So, X-Men 97, if you remember, last episode, we watched Fire Made Flesh, which is where we get the gene clone reveal, all that kind of stuff. And then we get Motendo / Life Death Part 1, which is the Jubilee episode with Sunspot. And then the Part 1 of Storm's storyline, where she loses her power, meets up with Forge, and they have to, Forge is trying to help her get her powers back. Okay, those were those 2 episodes. These latest 2 episodes, okay? So we leave Life Death, so Storm's situation, and that's completely not on the table for this next episode, but we have episode 5, which is called Remember It. Okay, so spoilers ahead for episode 5 and episode 6 of X-Men 97, but we're going to talk about it. Okay, overview. Genosha, the mutant nation, gets inducted into the UN. A bunch of stuff happens with Rogue, Magneto. Nightcrawler comes in. A bunch of other mutants are on screen. And then Genosha gets attacked by, I would say, Master Mold, which is the gigantic sentinel type being that makes other sentinels. So it's a terrorist attack on Genosha, meant to take out all the mutants. So we have Gambit, Rogue, and Magneto basically trying to hold back Master Mold, save a bunch of mutants, and then ultimately save themselves. Okay, so there's a couple things specifically I want to talk about in this episode, because that's pretty much an overview of what happened. But there's 3 main things I want to talk about in this episode. Okay, 1, Magneto and Rogue's relationship. It has progressed, okay, to the point where Rogue has to tell Gambit, hey, I want to be with you. I would love to be with you, but I can't be with you because I literally can't touch you. Okay? I can't feel you, is what she says, which is devastating, very heartbreaking. You know, just think about your loved one and you're not able to physically touch them because you will hurt them. And you want to be with them, but you literally can't. So that's kind of what they're going through. Gambit takes it like a straight up champ, and he's like, you know what? I get it. I understand. Some things are deeper than skin. You know what I'm saying? So he's like, it doesn't matter if you can't touch me. Like, I still love you, but it's cool. You know, like, I understand you and Magneto got a little thing. That's fine. So this brings me to my point of contention here, okay? Because in the show, Rogue is able to touch Magneto, and they can embrace and do all these things with bare skin on skin. And the explanation we got in the show was because this frustrated the crap out of me, okay? Especially because I know Gambit. Okay? The explanation we were given was that because of Magneto's electromagnetism, some reason because of that, him and Rogue can touch each other without Rogue taking his powers. Don't understand it. I don't get it. It is insane to me that that's the explanation we got for the Rogue Magneto hookup. Okay, we did get some backstory on when they met and like all that kind of stuff, but that's the crux of my issue here. The other thing, they're at this gala, okay? Rogue and Magneto start to flaunt their relationship in front of Gambit. Obviously, they're in a room full of a bunch of other mutants and people like that, but the main person we're focusing on is Gambit and what Gambit is looking at. Gambit sees them embrace, touch each other. I think he sees them kiss too, like, and he's just devastated, heartbroken. But now, that brings me to Gambit, which is going to bridge me to my second point. Gambit is an alpha level mutant, potentially omega level. Okay, omega level being the highest grade you can give as a mutant in terms of power. Alpha is right under. He is easily an alpha level mutant, okay, with potential to be an omega level mutant, right? There's been different iterations of Gambit where he can use his powers in certain ways to kind of shield himself a bit so that him and Rogue can touch. Okay? There are iterations of Gambit that can do that. All right? I want you guys to know that. There are iterations of Gambit who can use his power to bypass Rogue's power of being able to touch and steal powers. There are versions of Gambit who can do this. Okay? But that brings me to my second point in the episode, which is the inconsistency in Gambit's powers. Okay? Because Gambit's powers are stated to be he stores up kinetic energy and then places it onto an object, which makes it explode. Okay? The reason that Gambit uses playing cards is because it takes very little kinetic energy to charge the playing cards. They're easily throwable, and they generate a powerful enough explosive to take out most enemies, right? So he doesn't take a lot of power to do that. So that's why he uses playing cards as opposed to charging up cars or larger objects, because obviously that takes a lot more energy to kinetically charge that object to explode. And then obviously the explosion is going to be bigger based on whatever the object is that he charges, okay? In this episode, which we're going to get to, this is going to lead into my last point of contention with this episode. In this episode, Gambit fully charges a gigantic, and I want to reiterate, gigantic Sentinel. Fully charges up this gigantic Sentinel, okay, to the point where he has to, it explodes, obviously. My point of contention is nowhere in X-Men, the original series, or this new iteration, has Gambit ever shown the ability to charge up something that big with the amount of power that he generates in the show. Okay? That's one. So so I had a problem with that. Okay? But Gambit is one of my favorite X-Men. I love Gambit. I love his relationship with Rogue, how he calls her Cher and she calls him, Sugar, whatever. They have their pet names for each other. I love that. Okay? Huge spoiler for this episode, okay? At the end of this episode, Gambit dies. Okay? He gets stabbed by a tentacle coming from Master Mold, which is what he uses to connect himself to Master Mold, to charge Master Mold, to explode Master Mold. Okay? I was devastated. I'm not going to lie. Seeing Gambit die like that was terrible for me. Like, he went out like I would want him to, on his shield. He went out fighting and he went out doing his thing. But man, it was tough to watch. So after watching this episode, I was legitimately in shock. Didn't know what to do. I had to take a break because I was going to watch the 2 episodes back to back. But I was genuinely in shock, and it was something I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting them to kill Gambit. I wasn't expecting anyone to be taken out in that episode, to be honest. But not my boy Gambit. Not my boy Gambit. He's got the most swag on the team. It was tough. It was a tough watch. Okay, and like I said, I had to take a break. So I took a little break from that, and when I came back, the next episode that we watched was Life Death Part 2, which is the continuation and conclusion of the Storm storyline, but also, spoiler alert, but also the reintroduction of Professor Xavier. Okay, if you watched the original series more recently, like I did, you remember that at the end of the original series, the very last episode, Charles is on his deathbed, and the only thing that the X-Men can think to save his life is to call the Shi'ar Empire, which is a race of avian-based aliens, to come because Professor Xavier is in love with the queen of the Shi'ar, Lilandra, and Lilandra takes him to the Shi'ar army, and that's the last we see of Charles Xavier then. And then we get our first 5 episodes here where we get Magneto's in charge of the school. We got all this stuff going on with the X-Men. And then out of nowhere, we get dropped into the Shi'ar Empire and their politics and what's going on there. Professor Xavier's fine. Okay, he's alive. And basically he's going to marry Lilandra. Okay, and there's a situation going on where he has to, as a condition of marriage to her, he has to forget all of his earthly memories, and he has to forget all his memories with the X-Men. So he obviously doesn't do that. But in the midst of him making his case on why he shouldn't do this, he gets a psychic blast, basically letting him know that Gambit died. And he immediately stops what he's doing and is like, I have to go back to Earth. I have to, like, that's it. So that wasn't, I mean, a lot happened in that first part of the episode, but I didn't really care too much about that, to be honest. I definitely cared more about the Storm storyline for sure. And so we got the conclusion of that. And in the end of that, Storm gets a new suit. It's whatever. She gets her long hair back. I wish that didn't happen. I'm a huge fan of Storm in the Mohawk. Forge is taken into the fold, as I believe he's going to be part of the X-Men going forward. And then we have Storm has her powers back, and she's an Omega level mutant. I'm not going to go into how she gets them because it's a long, convoluted kind of story that I didn't really truly understand who the villain was in that. But it was a great conclusion to where now we have our X-Men team going forward is going to be Storm with her powers back, Cyclops, Jean, Beast, Wolverine, Morph, Nightcrawler, who was introduced in the previous episode, Rogue, and maybe Magneto, because Magneto also might have died. I didn't touch on it because it's unconfirmed. Gambit's was confirmed. Like, you saw his charred body. Rogue was holding it. It's confirmed he's dead. Magneto, not so much. With Charles coming back, so we're going to get almost the whole team, almost the whole original team back together. But the major thing was Storm got her powers back, which I was very upset when they nerfed her in the beginning of the season because Storm is by far one of the more powerful mutants on the X-Men. I would probably say outside of Charles because he's the teacher. I would say it goes Jean in terms of power, and then Storm right after. I don't think that's really debatable. Nobody can really hold a candle to Storm outside of Jean. She beats Scott one-on-one in a comic book run with no powers. She beat him in hand-to-hand combat, which Scott is known for his hand-to-hand combat. They didn't decide to adapt that, but I wish they would have, and as part of Storm not having her powers, because that was a main thing that happened in the comic books in this run where she didn't have her powers. She beat Cyclops one-on-one in hand-to-hand combat for the title of leader of the X-Men. So that would have been cool to see, but they didn't go that direction. But yeah, it's good to see Storm back. We got Nightcrawler, which is, as soon as he came on the screen, he was a lot of fun. So I'm excited for where we're going. This, like I said, this X-Men 97 is moving quick, fast, and in a hurry. So, like storyline, and they're just breezing through all these storylines. Within one episode, we got Charles Xavier coming back, the Shi'ar army, the introduction of the Shi'ar Royal Guard. We got all those types of politics going on from there, and then immediate switch to Storm getting her powers back, Forge doing his thing, and there's some other stuff about the astral plane and all these other things. So these episodes are moving quick. So we also got a flash of Cable randomly. That was weird. But yeah, these episodes are moving fast, and I love it because this is what I remember X-Men to be when I was growing up. Quick moves, very fast paced, very just storyline, and just going. So I'm very happy. X-Men 97 is exactly what I wanted it to be, and it is definitely living up and in parts exceeding my expectations. So if you guys haven't watched X-Men 97, I don't really know what you guys are doing. You need to get on it because it is peak. It is peak peak right now. And it's not even just the fighting. It's not the fighting. They fight very little in comparison to like other shows. It's a lot of the interpersonal relationships between the characters. You know, you have Cyclops having to deal with his clone baby mama, his son that got sent to the future. Oh, yeah. And by the way, my actual woman that I love may not be the actual woman that I love because we don't know when she got switched for the clone. So there's a lot going on in X-Men 97. You guys need to be watching it. Um, After this, though, we are going to talk about that mystery anime that I finished because I just couldn't get enough of. We'll keep that one short, and then we'll talk about um, Justice Society World War II. I forgot the title real quick. So I'll see you guys on the other side of this break. All right, so the anime that I was spending a lot of my free time watching and by free time I mean I wasn't streaming, I wasn't recording a podcast, I wasn't doing anything content related. When I was just relaxing, chilling, and I had time by myself, this is the anime that I was watching. Okay, and it's called Shangri-La Frontier. All right, this isn't gonna be like a spoiler heavy situation. I just want to talk about it, give my general thoughts on this now that season 1 is over. Season 2 has been announced. It will be coming out later this year, along with Solo Leveling. So we're very excited about that. But this anime, one season, it has, I want to say 24, 25 episodes, something like that. So it's a pretty hefty season for sure. And it was just really good. 25 episodes, I'm just looking up here. And so in those 25 episodes, we get a lot. Let me just give you the premise of this show, okay? Our main character, I don't know his actual name, but the name that is most associated with him is Sun Raku. That's his in-game name, and I'll explain that in a minute. So I don't know what his actual name is, but basically our main character is a video game player specializing in virtual reality games. Okay? And our main character is what they call a trash gamer. Okay? He plays games that are objectively bad, that have a ton of glitches, that have just bad writing, bad stories, bad everything. He enjoys those games the most. So the worse the game, that's the game he likes to play. Okay, so he is the number one trash gamer. All right. So now in this anime, someone convinces him to play Shangri-La Frontier, which is the newest AAA game, which is basically like it's a pristine game. It's got a lot of acclaim. It's got a lot of money behind it. It's got no glitches. It's got a great story. Got great enemies, like all those kinds of things. So it's basically a really, really good game. And he starts to play it, and he basically uses his experiences from all these other bad games to become really, really good in this game. Okay. And he encounters a bunch of different scenarios and things like that in this game, and that is where our story takes place. Mostly is in the game. The reason I like this anime is because it's a lot different. It's just a lot different, you know, and it gives you more than you would think it would give you when you initially go into watching it, knowing that it's you're watching basically a guy play a video game, but in animated form. The storylines are really, really good. I love all the characters. We have a bunch of other characters. Pencilgon, which is another one of his friends from other games that he's played that has met up with him in Shangri-La. There's his crush that likes him in real life that has made a character to play in Shangri-La Frontier just so that she can talk to him in game because she's too shy to talk to him in real life. So you got that situation going on. And then since our main character, Sun Raku, is such a good gamer in general, he's very sought after because he has unlocked a lot of different scenarios in this game that he's playing that has not happened for any other player. So it makes him, it definitely gives our main character a uniqueness, and it shows why he's different and why he's the main character as opposed to him just going around and playing the game and having no interest in just going along with the storyline of the game. This might be a little bit difficult for you guys to follow, but uh, it's a great show. If you just don't think about the fact that everything that you're seeing mostly on the screen is happening inside of a video game, inside of a show, it's a great show. It's a great show because you got Son Raku who is doing his thing. He's a very eccentric character. Um, because of some things that happened earlier on in the season, he can only wear a bird mask and a pair of jean shorts, and it is the spot for a lot of comedy in the show, because a lot of characters see him as basically wearing not a lot of clothes because he has no shirt on and he's wearing a bird mask. So he's a very eccentric character in that. But he's really really good with daggers and things of that nature, close range combat, speed movements. Um, is his play style. But let's get into the nuts and bolts of the actual show. The animation is beautiful. I think the animation is beautiful, especially in the fight scenes. There's a fight later on in the season towards the end. I want to say episode 20, um, where the flurries and the different shots and the different animations at certain points is just immaculate. Like, to me, it's very very beautiful. Um, the show, in terms of plot, also gives you a lot of nuggets that hints towards other things that are going on or that are going to happen down the line, as well as parsing out information when it's needed. So you don't get too much, just like you would in any normal video game. Excuse me. You get information based on the tasks that you do, and that's relevant to your character and what you're trying to do. So this story does a this anime does a great job of parsing out the information to the viewer, very well, to where you can get little hints of what's going to come and what may happen, what could happen, but also not giving away too much to where it's very predictable. And I enjoy that a lot, a lot. Um, we had a training arc. We had a couple of boss battles. A lot of comedy in this, which I always enjoy in my anime. I love anime that have hints of comedy. I don't like funny anime. I like anime that have hints of comedy. Um, Very very big distinction for me. But I also think that we need more characters in this show. Be more unique characters, which we started to get some towards the end of season 1, but I feel like, if I'm to nitpick, some of the beginning of the season was very very heavily focused on Son Raku, our main character, and for good reason, but I would feel like in a show like this that is based on a video game, you would get more robust character lineup than we got. I think at the end of season 1, we have a total of, I would say, one main character, two secondary characters, and maybe two. We have one side character and then another side character that's coming. So a total of 5 different characters that we kind of care about. And I would just think that, which 5 is a good amount. I would have just liked those characters to be introduced a little bit earlier in the season than they were, and integrated earlier in the season than they were. But other than that, this anime is great. 25 episodes, so it's not a short watch at all. Solo Leveling, I believe, is only 12, maybe 13 episodes in season 1. But yeah, Shangri-La Frontier has been just a really really fun watch, and it has definitely taken up a lot of my time outside of the other things that I do. So I definitely want to come on here and talk about it because I don't think it's been talked about enough. I feel like Solo Leveling was hyped up and it lived up to the hype in a way that no one really expected. And then Shangri-La Frontier, it being aired at the same time or on the same the seasons being aired at the same time. I don't think it really helped it. I heard about it from certain like just other little tidbits here and there. So I was interested. That's how I started watching it. But other than that, like I had no idea that this even existed. So you guys should be watching Shangri-La Frontier. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. I haven't really spoiled anything for you guys. It is a great watch. Animation is good. The storyline is pretty good. Like I said, there are a few nitpicks here and there, but overall, I'd probably give season one of Shangri-La Frontier. I'm doing it out of 5 system. I'd probably give it a 4 out of 5. I only do whole numbers. I'm not doing decimals. Okay, 4.5, 4.5. Nah, 4 out of 5 stars for it. Just because I have tiny, tiny little nitpicks. But other than that, man, great show. Great show. You guys go watch Shangri-La Frontier if you haven't already. And if you have, let me know what you guys think, because that would be great, so we can start some dialogue on that. But yeah, after this break, we're going to talk about Justice Society WWII. Great movie in the DC universe. Second one in the Tomorrowverse lineup that we're watching. So we're going to talk about that, and then we will. I'll let you guys know what the next movie/movies are in the lineup that we're going to watch. So stay tuned for that. See you guys on this side. All right, welcome back. We are here to talk about the second movie in the Tomorrowverse run of movies leading up to Crisis on Infinite Earths. In the Tomorrowverse for the DC animated movie universe, okay? So, Justice Society WWII takes place, World War II era. Obviously, you got the Nazis tearing up the world. It's just a storyline where the Justice Society gets placed into this, which consists of Justice Society, Wonder Woman as team leader. You have Hourman, Black Canary, Jay Garrick Flash, and Hawkman. Okay? That's the Justice Society at this point, right? Main storyline, we got the Justice Society going against the Nazis, trying to help the Americas defeat the Nazis in World War II. The Flash, Barry Allen, teams up with Superman briefly to fight Brainiac in the beginning of the movie. As he's trying to save Superman from Brainiac, he runs fast and opens a portal to what seems to be the past, okay? Because he's in the World War II era. But in this era, there are some things that are different. Flash starts noticing differences in this timeline than from his timeline. Superman also shows up here later, which also gives us an indication of where we're at. What else here? I'm looking at my notes. So we're 2 years into the war when Flash shows up, okay? Flash starts losing his powers. He doesn't really know why. We start getting hints about the multiverse and how there's different multiverses, okay, in this movie. They did it very subtly. To where you just start giving little pieces of information to start showing like, hey, this isn't actually the past. This is actually a whole different universe where this kind of stuff didn't happen, because Flash says, I don't remember any of you guys being in my timeline during World War II. I feel like I would have heard about you. They get around that by saying, hey, we have a reporter who's basically covering up our presence in the war, okay? Now, the reason the Justice Society is employed to fight the Nazis is because the Nazis are looking for magical artifacts to help boost their army and their strength and everything like that. So they're looking for magical artifacts, and that leads us to why the Justice Society gets involved. What do I say about this movie? This movie was good, not great. Some of the performances were, again, good, not great. Hourman, weird power set. Like he basically takes a vial of something that he created. He's a scientist. which gives him super strength, agility, all that kind of stuff, but it's only for an hour. And then after that hour, he has to wait 24 hours before he can take another dose. So basically, he's useless for 23 hours a day. There's also an Atlantis story point in here. So we get Aquaman. We get the, I want to say it's the Mary. I don't know what trench it is, but it's a very specific trench where the Leviathan that Aquaman ultimately controls is at. Um, what else happens? Like it's basically just a World War II movie with superheroes. To be honest, it's not that great. Um, I'm trying to be nice about it, but it was good, not great. You know, Flash was cool. You know, he did some things, but throughout the movie, he wasn't as flashy as I would like him to be. Our Man, we talked about. Hawkman was pretty cool. Did I forget Hawkman? I said Hawkman. Hawkman was pretty cool, but at the end they killed him. You know, but he reincarnates, so that's cool. Black Canary, her powers are awesome, but they weren't being utilized to their full potential in this. I feel like she's way better as a hand-to-hand combatant, and they didn't show too much of that. I feel like the fight scenes were not long enough for any particular character to showcase themselves outside of Wonder Woman versus Aquaman. That was a really, really good fight, but everyone else really didn't have too many moments, including Flash. And this is like a Flash movie. Um, I mean, yeah, it just wasn't. It wasn't what I was hoping for. I was hoping that it was better. We didn't. There's certain characters we just never got names of. There's a character that was mind controlling different characters, mainly Aquaman in this movie. Never got that guy's name. I even searched the credits to see what character that was. Never found it. Um, I know this is going to be weird to say, but like, you would think that in a World War II story that you would get some flash of the man in charge in that situation, if you know what I'm talking about. Um, no men. I mean, there was a couple of mentions, but no real like showing of him, which would have been good. We got a brief Dr. Fate sighting, which was really cool, but again, he just showed up, spouted a lot of blabber, gibberish, that kind of progressed the story, but not in any like real tangible way outside of giving Superman, the Superman character, his suit. But other than that, he didn't really do anything. And then he kind of gave Flash a warning or a task that will pay off in subsequent movies. But for this movie, it was a lot of setup for the coming movies. So this movie introduces Superman and Flash as a team up, introduces Wonder Woman as a character, which I'm assuming is going to be important going forward when Flash goes back to his timeline. Hawkman, all these other characters. It showed Flash that metahumans or superheroes can work together as a team, something that he had never thought of. So it seems like going forward, Flash is going to be the catalyst for forming the Justice League in his universe, because he had this experience where all these other superheroes teamed up for a common goal. At the end of the movie, we get Flash comes right back to the point where he was saving Superman, and that's where he's at. But yeah, I just, like I said, this movie was good, not great. And if I'm rating it out of 5, it's got to be like a 3. Flash had some cool moments, where he's running and the bullets are really slow, and he it's like he's walking, but everyone else is standing still, and he's like take some soldiers out there. Wonder Woman had some really cool battle moments, but yeah, I mean, and then the thing that I want to talk about too that really really got on my nerves in this movie was Steve Trevor, which is Wonder Woman's, like, in many different storylines, Steve Trevor is the human that Diana, aka Wonder Woman, falls in love with most of the time when she initially decides to rejoin humanity when she leaves Themyscira. It's mostly Steve Trevor who she deals with. So in this timeline, it just got really, really annoying because Steve Trevor would constantly hit on Wonder Woman, ask her to marry him, like do all these things. I mean, it kind of paid off at the end because Steve Trevor dies and he asks her as his dying wish to marry him, and she does, or she agrees, but then he dies. So it was kind of like it was kind of a gag that was used to pay off at the end to give you an emotional moment, but it just didn't pay off to me because I felt like he was just really annoying, you know? And like you're in the middle of a war and you want to keep asking Wonder Woman, who is this all-powerful being who is very focused on being on the front lines and defending the world against this threat, you want to distract her by asking her to marry you constantly. I feel like it was just too much. It was just too much for me, and it got really, really annoying and tiring after like the second time that he hit on her, asked her to marry him. Um, yeah, I mean, I really don't have too many too many good things to say about this. I mean, like the animation was consistent with the first one with Superman, Man of Tomorrow. It's going to be consistent through all the movies, so there's really nothing to talk about animation there. The storyline, it's we got to defeat the Nazis. I mean, it's not too deep, anything like that. There wasn't really any like huge character development in there because most of the characters that we met in this movie are not going to be characters that we deal with going forward. So it's like outside of Flash, our the Barry Allen version of Flash. So I wasn't emotionally invested in any of the other characters like Wonder Woman, Hourman, Black Canary, Hawkman, all of them. I wasn't invested in them, so it didn't have. I didn't have an emotional investment in this movie, so I just didn't like. So some of the deaths at the end didn't really move me like others would. Like like we talked about Gambit in earlier in the episode. Um, I have an emotional attachment to Gambit because I've been with Gambit for a long time. Not just the original series, but these first 6 episodes of X-Men '97. We've been with Gambit. We've seen his struggle. We've seen his character development. We've seen his despair, seeing Rogue gravitate towards Magneto. Like, and none of that happened in this movie. None of that made me excited for them. I mean, the fights at the end were kind of cool, but then again, it was just kind of like this hero takes out this monster, this hero takes out this monster. Oh, Wonder Woman's fighting Aquaman because no one else can fight him, and then just like it felt random, but like it felt really rushed at the end where basically everything just ended, and it was just like, okay, Aquaman's gone, all his forces that came up to the surface with him while he was mind controlled, they're all gone. No explanation as to where he went, the consequences that he faces, anything like that. The character that we didn't get named who was mind controlling him didn't get captured, didn't nothing happened to that guy. We got no resolution on if the battle that they won was a huge blow to the war effort in terms of the Nazi forces. We didn't get any answers for that. And like I said, it emotionally, it was just an emotionally dull movie. If it wasn't in the next in line in this run of movies that we're watching, I would not have watched this one, to be honest, because it didn't look good to me from the beginning, and it proved to be that when we watched it. So overall, the movie was good, not great. The animation was good. There were some good character moments, but the story was bland. The characters you don't care about because you're not going to see them again, really. At least in my opinion, I don't know. but I don't feel like we're gonna see that iteration of those characters again. So there was no real reason to emotionally invest there. And if you're not emotionally invested in these characters, like what's the point of having them on screen? Something that would have been, in my opinion, a better use of the Flash, if I could give a whole alternate movie, was he goes to save Superman in the beginning. That whole beginning sequence is the same. He goes to save Superman, and instead of him running through a portal that takes him to a different dimension or a different multiverse, he just has to go back in time and figure something out. I just feel like Flash and time travel is way better than what they did in this movie. Um, I do like the fact that it was very subtle how they introduced the multiverse, and maybe it's just me having a problem with the time period that they picked, because I'm not a huge World War fan. I'm not a huge fan of war movies or wartime storytelling or anything like that. So maybe that was why I didn't fully enjoy this movie. But I just feel like they could have put Flash in a different setting and still accomplish the same goal and have it be a little bit more interesting than it was. So I hate to end the podcast on such like a negative note, but I gotta keep it real with you guys. And if you guys are gonna trust some of my reviews, like not all the reviews are gonna be good. So usually DC animation is really, really good, but this second movie, good, not great. The first movie, Superman, Man of Tomorrow, I gave it some leeway just because I don't like Superman as a character. So I already go into that style of movie not on a positive side because I just don't like Superman the character. But that movie overcame me not liking Superman as a character, and it brought something fresh and new to the story of Superman that made me interested in his story, made me interested in some of the ancillary characters around Superman in this iteration. But this second movie did none of that for me. None of that. So I'm hoping the next movie slash movies, I say movies with an S because the next couple of movies in the lineup are going to be Batman, The Long Halloween, The Long Halloween Part 1 and Part 2. So I don't know if I'm probably going to watch Part 1 and Part 2 back to back just because it's of a piece. So it's one whole movie, but it's split into two parts. So I want to, review the whole piece of work instead of just doing parts. So we're gonna watch Batman: The Long Halloween parts 1 and 2 for next week's episode, and then we're gonna do a review on those. Okay, so be on the lookout for that. I hope you guys are keeping up with us because we're watching a movie every 2 weeks. Pretty simple. You guys can just Google where you watch it. I've been watching them on YouTube because you can rent them on YouTube. I rent these movies on YouTube and watch them, review, take notes, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully you guys are keeping up with me and you guys are enjoying these reviews because I enjoy doing them. So, yeah. I feel bad that we're ending on such a negative note in terms of this review, but it is what it is. I didn't make the movie; I just reviewed it. But that's gonna be it for our podcast. That's another episode of Nerd Vibes in the books. I appreciate you guys for being here and supporting the podcast. Whether it's on YouTube, whether you're listening to it, however you're consuming the podcast, I appreciate it. I love doing this for you guys. This is something that I look forward to doing every single time I'm recording and getting ready for the pod. It fills me with so much joy to do the podcast. And I know that my hard work at some point is going to pay off. So I appreciate you guys being here, watching, listening, and supporting. It means the world to me. But until next time, Nerd Vibes, we're out. Peace.